This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this StockBox interview.
This morning is David Lenigas, the CEO of Vinanz PLC. David, good to be speaking to you. It's been a little while since we've spoken, but some big news from the company today. You've bought practically 17 Bitcoin to go into Treasury. So tell us a bit about this strategy and the rationale behind this.
Yeah, Mark, hi. No, it's good to speak to you again. Bitcoin Treasury companies are very important for the Bitcoin sector. If you look at MicroStrategy and MetaPlanet, they're basically Bitcoin Treasury companies. And even though we're into the Bitcoin mining game in North America, our real aim here is to build as many Bitcoin into our custodial wallets as we can possibly get. You know, we're firmly convinced that this is a mindset with respect to global currencies, the whole Bitcoin phenomenon. It's gathering a lot more pace, and we see Bitcoin going to many, many multiples of where it is. So our whole strategy right from the get-go has been get as many Bitcoin as we can, keep grow through Bitcoin mining operations, which are a whole lot slower than buying Bitcoin on the market. We announced the other day that we'd done a $4 million deal through our NASDAQ sponsoring sort of bankers through some of their very senior clients. We've drawn down 2 million of that and we put it straight into Bitcoin. That's right. What they wanted us to do. There's another 2 million available for us in the next few weeks, I think. We'll probably draw that down and put 99 cents in the dollar back into Bitcoin, and then we'll just keep going.
Right.
We want to be London's MicroStrategy, basically.
Okay. So you basically, this is part of the US push and that NASDAQ listing is to get those funds and effectively bolster the Treasury.
Absolutely. No, okay. Bitcoin Treasury is really important for us. Okay. Bitcoin mining is still important, but at the end of the day, to go and build a multi-billion-dollar company, if there's one to be built, it'll be done on the basis of Bitcoin Treasury.
Okay.
And speaking with our fund managers and our bankers in the States, there's endless amounts of money for the right company in the right space at the right time with respect to Treasury.
Okay. Interesting. And it's interesting you mentioned this trend, if you like, at the start. What are you seeing? Because there clearly is a trend for Bitcoin Treasury companies like MicroStrategy, as you mentioned there. There's not many opportunities for that. In fact, none, I don't think, in the UK where you have Bitcoin.
Well, there's a couple. I mean, Smarter Web came out in the last week or two and bought a little bit of Bitcoin, and they're sort of 10x on their share price for their Aquis. Aquis has its trading difficulties. We used to be on Aquis, but now we're on Mainboard. This whole process for us becoming, being able to buy treasuries through proper regulated custody, institutional groups has taken us a long time. We've got a different level of regulatory regimes to cross. And we've navigated that, we think, very well. We only listed on the main board a couple of months ago. So now that we've got the platforms fairly well set, we'll build our Bitcoin mining operations in North America, and we'll also really, really aggressively build to build our Bitcoin Treasury.
Okay. So the Treasury is there to back up and be that exposure to Bitcoin for people who want that exposure without buying the underlying, and then the yield comes from your mining operations.
Well, as someone said to me this morning, I can go buy Bitcoin in the UK. I said, fine, but a lot of institutions can't. A lot of institutions, a lot of regulated bodies, they cannot buy Bitcoin. Back office says no, computer says no, it's too hard. There's a big mind shift that needs to happen with respect to institutional groups in the UK and indeed in Europe to allow their fund managers to actually go and buy exposure to directly to Bitcoin. So being a public company with a Bitcoin treasury that's growing, we provide the avenues for people to look at investing in us to get, maybe a better delta than just 1-for-1 into the Bitcoin price.
Mm-hmm. So David, just finally, what's your BHAG then, your big, hairy, audacious goal for Vinanz?
Well, we're pushing very hard to get a dual listing on the NASDAQ. As our lawyers will say, you've always got to qualify it and say this may or may not happen. We've got some very good lawyers. We've got some excellent bankers. I mean, Dominari Securities are basically one of the leading bankers in New York with respect to the crypto space. I just got sent something this morning that Dominari are involved with Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr.'s Bitcoin America. They're merging it into a whopping great company. They're in the space. They're in the slot. And NASDAQ, I think, allows the Americans the opportunity to front run what could potentially happen in the UK. I mean, the UK is still the second largest financial market in the world, and they just haven't caught on yet. But when it does, we want to be leaders at the beginning of the pack.
Okay, excellent. Well, David Lenigas, as always, thank you very much for joining us today.
Great, thanks, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at StockBoxMedia.com. Thank you for watching.